Hello and welcome to Arena FPS News episode number 35. It's been barely a week, but my god, what a week. There has been so much going on in the scene and we can't wait to inform you of all the highs and there's no lows.
First up, we've got a little preview of Reflex 0.46. They released a video of one of their Twitch streams where they're testing out lots of different things, and there's lots of interesting stuff in it. First up, the stake gun's coming back. It's going to be dealing 120 damage, and the projectile is going to be faster than last time at 4,000 UPS. What do you reckon about that?
It's difficult. It's really trying to work out where it's going to sit in the weapon balance of the entire game. If it's going to replace Bolt, it might be it replaces Bolt on certain maps where Bolt doesn't exist, or how exactly it's going to fit in. I think even regardless of that, 120 damage might need to be tweaked. It was 80 before, it was slower. 120 damage is a kill off fresh spawn, so that's another weapon that can kill off fresh spawn, and it could be problematic. It could turn the game into more of a standy-offy, like ranged spam fest than up close combat.
Yeah. I mean, they got to put it in to see how it's going to work, of course. But yeah, 120 is a lot.
Yeah, but regardless, I think it's a really cool weapon, and it's one of the things that was shown on the Kickstarter and got me interested in the game because it's adding something that's unique to that style of game that we haven't really seen before. And I think Reflex forging its own identity is always great, and this is a big step in that direction.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the stake gun basically it fires a stake into the wall, and then players can use that to get extra distance on their movement and stuff. They can jump off the stake, or they can use it to get extra height by kind of making a step out of it and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. They've also added a hum to the LG and the railgun, so that's the same as it works in Quake Live and pretty much every other Arena FPS. I'm not sure how that's going to work with the global sound system.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I like this because I think those two weapons having hum is good for the game because they're quite powerful weapons. But because of the global sounds, meaning that you can hear it pretty much anywhere on the map, kind of devalues the point of having it there. Because the idea is, you're close to someone, let's say they're above or below you because you can hear the hum. But if you can just hear it from like one side to the other, then you just know they've got that weapon out.
But I guess it nerfs it even more, right? It
Yeah.
nerfs weapons even more because you have to, even if you're really far away from them, you have to be having a non-humming weapon out if you want to hold a rail angle and switch to it. And Reflex doesn't have instant weapon switch like CPM either. It's faster than Quake Live, but not instant. So I don't know, it could be interesting. The knockback has been rewritten to be more consistent. I'm not exactly sure how that works. I don't know if you are, but sounds nice.
Shooter was saying it's linear now rather than exponential, I think it was before. So essentially, no matter where you hit them with the splash, it's going to do proportional knockback to where that is. So hopefully we have a better feeling and more consistent knockback, which is something that I think they've been fiddling with since the game was first released on early access almost. Like there's been so many knockback patches that if you remember the old version of the rocket launcher, which was crazy. But hopefully this brings it more in line with games like CPM and Quake 3 and Quake Live, where I feel like the knockback feels better on those games than it does in Reflex currently. And if you can recreate that feeling, that would be great.
Yeah, sounds good to me, yeah. The melee hit reg has changed, which is good because the melee does 100 damage and it's got quite a big hit radius. So I believe that's going to be made smaller.
Yeah, I think you were saying you'd prefer the damage to be reduced.
Yeah, I think 100 is a bit much, especially if you're kind of getting like a one-off hit and you're getting massively rewarded for it. I think it's better if you can consistently hit at a smaller damage rate. At least it's something I would prefer. But this is still much better than it is now.
The thing that I feel with the melee in that game is it's straight up better than the burst gun, the first gun you start with. Because the maps are small and the movement's quick, so you can literally just, if you're in that situation where you can't get away, you might as well just charge at them with your melee out than try and use the burst gun. Because over long range, burst gun's useless, and over a short range, the melee is just better. So there's a weird dichotomy with those two weapons that I think maybe eventually they could have a look at again.
The change that I'm most happy about in the whole patch is that the grenades are getting a smaller projectile, but a larger explosion radius. So this means they'll be better for area denial, but you won't be able to just use it like a rocket launcher, run into a fight and hit a bunch of direct grenades and get 300 damage.
Yeah, we've both been on this grenade is OP bandwagon for quite some time. Not that everyone agrees with us, but I think the weapon, it wasn't hugely problematic. It wasn't like game breaking, but you could definitely see how it overtook the rocket launcher in some ways, or at least played a very similar role. So I think the grenade being a bit harder to get those direct pineapples, or whatever they're called, is probably good for the game, and I think the explosion radius should force it more towards its expected role of area denial.
Yeah, definitely. We saw in the video that they've added turrets, which I believe is for a training mode, but it's really interesting, and it seems to, I don't know, it seems to make Reflex seem quite, I don't know, professional or diverse, but it looked really interesting. It had them running around the map while LG rail and rocket turrets kind of fired down at them from different angles.
Yeah.
Could make cool game modes.
I think a game mode where it's like turret survival or something would be cool, because they had a map called Reflex Daggers, which unsurprisingly is probably inspired from Devil Daggers. So some kind of time attack mode where you could just not die to turrets for as long as you possibly could. I think those are good for the game, especially with lower player numbers, because let's say you hop onto a server and you're waiting for someone else to hop on. It's something you can just play around of, possibly, while you're waiting.
Yeah, and Mapples will make some really cool stuff out of this as well.
Yeah.
There's a sickle melee model, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the look of that.
There's no way a sickle's going to kill a robot, which is kind of why I like it, so I think I'll be trying to get that.
Yeah.
And a new shotgun model. So this is part of the new weapon art passes, so the grenade was the last one to get done.
Yep.
And shotgun will be next.
Yeah, it looks alright.
I think that's pretty much it for Reflex.
So moving on, Arms of Tellus has had a, I think he called it a soft release, and essentially it's on, I think it's itch.io, and you can buy it for $4.99, and it's a kind of pre-access before Steam dealy, and it's being released in waves. I think the first wave was sold out quite quickly, actually. I'm sure there's another bunch of games available now. It's obviously not finished, and I'm not sure the patch development cycle per se. I'm not sure how regularly he puts out updates in terms of information on that, but I had a play with Hugo and it was fun. It felt nice to move around in and nice to use the weapons and stuff, and it was a really interesting, it's something I've been wanting to play for a while, because it's a nice mix of like Descent, I think it's called, but it's like this 6-axis movement and a more tribesy skiing style game. It had a grapple hook and stuff. It just felt fun. It felt like a fun CTF mode, so I enjoyed that.
All throughout its development, we've kind of seen the developer like testing out all these interesting weapon types and stuff, like the rail that fires twice with like the thunder and lightning attack. There's like a Healy thing and a melee attack, which kind of like puts a sticky bomb on you or something. It's full of really interesting weapons, and it's based around CTF, so it's kind of something that Tribes players have latched onto. But yeah, it's a really cool looking game.
Yeah, a lot of these games they're probably not going to get huge because of the scale of the development, but like Insight and Rex and whatnot. I think they have some really cool ideas, and I think they'll be really enjoyable for like niche communities. So definitely happy to see the game being released to a wider audience.
In some pretty massive news, Diabotical got funded. They did it, what, in like 4 days, 5 days?
Yeah, and I want to say it's the first dedicated multiplayer arena FPS game to be funded on Kickstarter, because Reflex failed, was it 2014, I think, to meet its goal, and it got pulled. And then more recently, Blackroom went on Kickstarter and got pulled as well. So it's a nice thing to see that arena FPS games have enough interest to get kickstarted, and it's now rapidly heading towards the 150,000 stretch goal. It's already past the co-op race mode one, which I think should be pretty cool actually. Co-op defrag is something that's fun to watch. I don't know how good I'll be at actually doing it, but you can imagine like the really good players going to put out these amazing videos, so that's going to be fun.
The £150,000 goal for the co-op survival mode, that's something I really hope they get, because that's the sort of thing where, you know, it's something that new players can do in a game when arena FPS might be a bit intimidating for them, but there's still like a mode for them to start playing, get used to the weapons and stuff, and will just be a lot of fun. So I hope they get that for the sake of the game.
Yeah, they've still got another 24 days, I think it is, as of speaking, on the Kickstarter. And I believe that James is wanting to do like interviews and like big streams with like personalities, so that would bring a bit more interest. And I've not really seen any articles in places like Rock Paper Shotgun or PC Gamer, which will probably come out.
It would.
Yeah.
Since arena FPS has gone through a Kickstarter successfully.
That's weird actually, because as soon as the Reflex and the John Ramirez one, there's tons of articles everywhere about them, but the first one that we've seen actually funded, it's been a bit quiet. Possibly there's other things going on at the moment and that's why, but hopefully they'll get a bit more exposure for the end of their Kickstarter?
At QuakeCon, there was leaked footage of Quake Champions. So we didn't get this with Doom, I'm pretty sure. When they said they were going to do Doom behind closed doors, I don't remember finding any leaked footage, but they showed Quake Champions having a 5v5 match with a bunch of Quake pros and personalities and stuff. I think Fatality was there.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch all the names. Shall we talk quickly as well about the actual trailer they released to put this into a bit more framing?
Yeah, so that came first.
Yeah, that came on the Friday, I believe, and it wasn't particularly well received. I think largely due to the people playing looked very wooden with their movement. They didn't look comfortable playing that kind of game.
It's like Quake played by mums.
Exactly. And for that reason, it kind of put the game down, whereas where we saw the leaked footage, even though it was awful quality on the phone, the actual quality of the gameplay was like miles and miles better. And that kind of puts questions in my mind of the PR department being able to put out decent information about the game, because I don't know why you'd release that kind of trailer even the editing of the trailer wasn't great. It was alright, but it wasn't like a professional quality trailer. And then someone's phone footage was a better representation of their game than an actual like professionally made trailer.
Yeah, I mean that's also going to be the trailer that's going to be circulating until they release a new one. So people are going to be looking at that horrible clip of Anarchy standing still on his hoverboard and then falling on his face, instead of the really nice clips of like Noctis and everyone else like rocket jumping around and straight jumping quickly. And it's a shame. I hope they put out some better content, and I hope they see I hope they see this, but I'm not sure they will. And then sort of patch it up a little bit, because what we saw in the phone footage was really good.
Yeah, I'm still concerned about a lot of things with the game. That it might just be that the type of game they're making isn't something that we're necessarily that interested in. For example, like there's NTF for CPM, which is a cool game mode, but isn't something that I'd play personally. I much prefer the standard straight up duel between two people, not with classes, which NTF has, kind of similar to Team Fortress in that way. I think it's not only Team Fortress or not Team Fortress, I always forget the name. But having the different abilities and stuff, like one of the characters has a heal, like it puts down healing spores for their friends to pick up and heal themselves with. There's that weird disconnect between Quake and a character healing that I can't quite get over in my mind. And it might be cool, it might be really cool for game modes, but personally I'm finding that to be a difficult concept to get my head around.
It's kind of looking like this is sort of making the gap between Quake Champions and Diabotical, because they both look like two arena shooters that are gaining momentum right now, that both have the possibility and the potential to be successful games. But it seems like Diabotical is aiming more at the classic style, where 1v1 will be the competitive mode, and it's going for just map pickups and sort of everything that we already know about arena FPS. And Quake Champions is going for all this new stuff with classes and the 5v5 game mode and stuff. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, hopefully it works. I mean, they were talking about beta in early 2017, so I'd imagine January, February kind of time. So I guess we won't really know till then. And there was some things also in the trailer and the footage that the knockback looked like it hadn't been properly implemented yet. There was like when people were taking damage, they weren't getting knocked back in the way you'd imagine they would in a Quake game. So I don't know if that's just because the game's early in development, or it's hard to say. It's hard to take any real information from what we saw, because obviously it's very early in development. But overall, I think it looked pretty cool. Yeah,
it was fast, and people were shooting rockets all over the place and hitting 6 shots and stuff. So it's still got lots of things you like about Quake in it. It's seeing the ratio of what's released and how good the unknown things to us actually are.
Also,
in other QuakeCon, sorry, go on.
I was also going to say, there's a lot of people saying on like forums and stuff, like you shouldn't be criticizing it because Quake needs to move on and Quake needs to get these new features, and I don't necessarily agree with that. Like whether it works or not is by the by, but just shoehorning whatever is the popular thing in gaming into a game isn't necessarily the right thing to do.
Yeah, and even if you do agree that it does need to move on, which I don't know if I do, you still can criticize how they're choosing to do that.
Yeah,
because there's lots of ways to move on, and turning it into a 5v5 domination game with classes is a pretty big jump and subject to criticism. In other QuakeCon news, The Quake Live Grand Finals were amazing, and I encourage everyone to go and watch them.
Yeah,
no spoilers.
Possibly the best Quake dual series I've ever seen.
It was amazing. The Quake World stuff was also amazing, and just really grateful that it was there because, you know, who could have, well, it was the 20th anniversary, but it's still shocking to see a Quake World tournament at QuakeCon.
Yeah, and it was just really nice to see. I think like the best moment of the entire thing for me, because I don't really watch QuakeCon, and I really appreciate it as a game, but it's not something I'm hugely ingrained with personally. But watching the players kind of have a big like 4-man huggle, we'll go with a huggle, at the end of the 2v2 tournament, where they all just look so happy to be on stage playing the game that they've poured so many hundreds or thousands of hours of their life into, and haven't really gotten any recognition from like the mainstream, allowing them to have that platform to kind of show off their skills, and which were really, really impressive. I might say this isn't just like being patronizing. It's like, oh, well done, guys, well done. No, it was like crazy high skill level, really interesting gameplay, and it was once in a lifetime opportunity, I'd imagine. Probably won't ever see that happen again.
I think that's everything.
Oh, okay. Oh. Good news video, good news. Yeah. Not bad. I mean, being pretty quick, 5 days, blimey. Think about that.
Bye.
Ha!